for destination any other place. You feel like you're on trial, want to be victim for a while, but no good lawyer wants to take up your case. You can never change it now. You can never change it now.
So are you in San Francisco?
Yeah. Yep. I'm at home, and I've arranged the plants and the neon to give it sort of a vibe. And
Right.
yeah, I've learned to sit near a window or get these lights going. I mean, it's giving myself the DIY star treatment here.
Fair enough. So how's 2020 been treating you?
Oh, geez. It's been a strange year. There's been a lot to, it started off with a bang. I had a good tour with Ezra Furman around the West Coast and Texas and stuff. And boy, did I get sick about two days into it. And if that wasn't a preamble for the rest of this year, but I was like, God, I can barely breathe. And so, of course, there were murmurings about what was going on. We didn't know. I don't know. I got tested. Did I have it? They say I didn't have it, but the tests weren't really available here till April or May. By then, who knows what's going on with this insanity. But a lot of people I know were not feeling very good early in the year. So there was the joy of playing music. Nothing worse than having a tour with a cold. I mean, let's face it. It's just like, it's hard work anyway. You're excited, and then you go on stage and you're like, God, do I feel sluggish? This is what a bummer. I've been looking for, I'm spending money right and left. I'm pumping gas. I'm paying for the hotels for everybody, and I'm bankrupting myself, and I feel terrible, so there's nothing worse than that. But the shows were good, and little did we know what the hell was going to happen in the middle of March. The last show that I did, one of the best of my life, was playing in Robin Hitchcock's band. He performed the record I in San Francisco on his birthday in March 5th or 6th. And that was the last gig. I mean, if that's the end, hey, that's the way it goes. I got this. I signed off on a relative high point, but
go out with a bang. That's it. Yes.
It's been a weird year for me and for everybody, and just a lot of psychic heaviness, sadness, and the world's in a mess. And thankfully, there's some relief with our most recent election to kind of, as far as I'm concerned, sort of lighten that load. But it's been a tough year for everybody. And
hopefully we're turning a corner, so we'll see what happens.
Let's not trip.
Yeah, exactly. So you have a new album out. It's called Etc. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay,
we don't know is it a good title, a bad title? Will it go down with Houses of the Holy and Sgt. Pepper's? Probably not, but it may not even go down with Double Exposure or some of my other good titles. Basically, I was out having some drinks at a local pub, and once a month they have opera singers from the neighborhood come and sing in a dress down, just in their jeans.
Right.
And it's really wonderful to see it up close with 30 people with these great singers. And they also have little vignettes of the best of Madame Butterfly and Tosca and whatnot is up on a little PowerPoint presentation with subtitles. And one of the subtitles, when a tenor was etc. And so it just, with whatever wine buzz I had, it seemed to me like I love that this guy is emoting and saying something that's so dear to his heart, and it's just summed up with etc. So it kind of tied into the struggle of man and woman and an animal.
It's much more profound than I thought it was. So there you go.
Hey, I've got layers, man, layers and layers and layers.
There you go. So musically, your previous album was Hard Feelings. How does this one compare to what you've done in the recent past?
Well, Hard Feelings for me was sort of a lark, a fun exercise. I was really inspired by a record called by an artist called Mick Trouble. Mick Trouble, and Mick, he grew up in he's from Yorkshire, Mick. So Mick was a fictional character created by a guy, Jed Smith, and Jed is a big fan of television personalities, early DIY, swell maps, UK punk, post-punk. Yep. And so he created this character, Mick Trouble, who, made some record and then disappeared and worked at a grocery store or something. So he had a whole backstory. And it's very 1978, 77, 79 DIY. And it was really inspiring to me, and kind of as a happenstance, I bought a cheap Japanese guitar at a record store. It was conducive only to Ramones chords. Otherwise, it was basically unplayable, but it looked great and it was cheap. And
there could be worse bands they could play than the Ramones, so there you go.
Yeah. So I was really into that record, and I had this perfect sounding guitar, and I went in and just in like 2 weeks was like, which is a departure for me. There were no songs about heartache or planets or heaven or grand schemes. It was about riding on the train and things like that, and definitely sort of an undertones kind of sound, 80s Iggy, things that I kind of love but had never really expressed musically in what people would expect from my records, which I think this new one is similar to. It's kind of my wheelhouse of 60s, 80s convergence, your Beatles, your Big Star, your Bunnymen, your Todd Rundgrens, your whatevers, with some synthesizers and things. And so it's definitely more the typical record you might expect. You've heard this one before, but just not done quite as well as this one.
Yeah, there's definitely a distinct jangle going on through a lot of these that hits your 60s sweet spot and 80s sweet spot. It's kind of like a REM-y kind of Searchers thing going on, I guess.
Ooh, I like this. Yeah, it's needles and shins or something.
I like it.
Right.
And your first track, Team Earth, has that jangle going on, but is it addressing climate change?
Open your eyes, beautiful skies. You're just a cloud, shadow and sound. You are decay, you are rebirth, not fade
away. I thought of that one time when it was kind of a can't we all get along feeling of join a team of all Earth, let's get it together. But there's a sort of dual meaning, and to me, the song is like Earth is the galaxy, the Milky Way's problem child. And it's like kind of the other planets talking to Earth saying, hey, get on the team, Earth. So it's a little bit of both, but yeah, why not?
And my understanding is that almost all of the album was recorded by you in your little studio there in San Francisco, but you do have a couple of guests, one of whom is Will Sargent, who shows up on the second track, The Quiet Ones. So
yes.
How does he work with you? Why is he on your record?
The quiet ones who live upstairs in rented rooms, tending small affairs.
So Will and I are good friends now, and we were pretty much pandemic companions. It was once a week. He was feeling low, he'd give me a call, vice versa. I've gotten to know him well because I was in the Bunnymen for about 3 years, playing rhythm guitar, and was a fan for 35 years before that. If there's any group that got me buying hairspray, smoking cigarettes, playing guitar, looking at myself in a mirror, being introduced to, learning about who Leonard Cohen is, who television is, who the Velvet Underground is. The Bunnymen were a gateway drug for a young kid
Yeah.
to learn about the things that influenced them. They had great taste in what they took from. So I learned a lot about music from them, and luckily they needed a rhythm guitar player to fill in for a few years. And so I got to kind of be a transatlantic Bunnymen.
Pretty cool.
And, so I've kept up with Will. We spent a lot of time together touring because he's a record collector like yourself. And, and, you know, nothing better than pulling up in a bus and it's, hey, it's 10 a.m. and it's Cleveland. What are we going to do? You know, and you go to where are the record shops? Where are the cafes? And he liked to do that. So we would walk 4 or 5 miles a day and have a good time and buy records. And it was something we shared. And so I think the song, The Quiet Ones, was a song that he and I, he wouldn't even remember, but he and I were playing at a Bunnymen rehearsal, and we were I was sort of doing a Scott Walker impersonation. And Scott Walker always sings about sort of paranoia with the woman down at the end of the hall. You know, there's always some strange person that's living an ordinary life, but you wonder what's going on in this single woman. Is she a prostitute? Does she have love? You know, so The Quiet Ones was kind of written tongue in cheek as sort of a Scott Walker impersonation with Will and I. It was totally different. It was on piano and slow. And when I got home, I had made that music and I was like, I need some words. And so maybe this would be a good song for that. And so it just seemed right to have Will play the guitars on that song. So he's got a little studio in his house and he sent me the tracks over the email and I dropped them in, and that's how you can make records these days.
That's about what everybody's doing, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Trading WAV files. So, hopefully the file wasn't corrupted. I think he sounded in tune from what I was able to,
That's always a good sign. He's also on another track, Moonshine, where he does do a spoken word thing.
The faraway docks in Liverpool are now just a hint of grey. Fragile twigs in the distance, 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 in the distance. I noticed that the world sound has changed. Silence has replaced the background drone.
Yeah. So Will has a podcast thing called Space Junk Radio, and it's once a month when he feels like it. And he loves Yes and King Crimson and Robert Fripp. He's way into prog and 70s psych things. And he also has a little wonderful, this is Will Sargent, and I'm, just above whispering. We call him Whispering Will, And I was always like, man, you got to do a spoken word album or whatever. You're so good at it. So he's been doing some writing about his life. And so he was willing to just sort of do a Ken Nordine sort of spoken word thing on that song. And, it was an outro that had a Pink Floyd bed with nothing going on. And it was like, This is nice to listen to, but maybe it needs something. So let's have him read over that. And he was happy to do it.
Very cool. And you also have someone named Karina Denicky singing on that?
Yes, Karina Denicky. And Karina was in a band called the Dance Hall Crashers that are kind of an early poppy punk band, 90s, 2 girl singers, some really cool songs. And she's an amazing singer. And she plays quite often doing jazz, doing standards, doing her own things. She can really sing. She gives vocal lessons, whatever. So she was just a good friend of mine. And I was trying on this song, Moonshine, to do the Cream harmony. There's a Cream song, I think on Disraeli Gears or the next record, anyway, I couldn't get that third. I'm trying to remember the name of the track.
I know the song you mean, though. That's the scary thing.
Yeah.
It's not I Feel Free, is it?
I Feel Free. It's I Feel Free.
Oh, man. Oh,
it's right there. Where's that spine? There it is. Yeah. So, I was trying, and it was awfully high for me. So I was like, I need a professional to sort of round it out. And I bathed my voice in so much reverb that you can barely understand what I'm saying. But Karina was there as a sort of a support on the vocals to make it, sound good.
Right.
So yeah, so Karina played, and my fiance Allison plays on a song, She Likes Noise.
She likes noise. She likes noise.
That's written about her because she just loves, it's basically her at a concert. I mean, she's chewing gum. I mean, I've seen video, there's video of Flipper. She went to see Flipper,
Right.
Reunited with David Yao as the lead singer.
Right.
And we were watching a week later this video, and there's Allison in the front row. She's got a whole pack of gum, and she's just right in the front row, and this band is this cacophony of metallic noise is going off, and she's, so She Likes Noise was written for her kind of because it really describes her her taking me to these concerts. She's much
Right.
more open-minded and punk in her aesthetic than I am. So that was a song for her, and it's good to get friends involved, to share a little bit and to add something. And other than that, I mostly play all the stuff on all my records, except for here and there, people will pop in. And
Right.
I always say, this next one is going to be with a band. I've got a great live band. I've got talented friends around the world. Let's do this. But then all of a sudden there's 6 or 7 songs that are kind of like, these are better than a demo.
Yeah.
Sounds like a record is happening. And I don't want to just say, hey, come in everybody and let's re-record this stuff. So another one is made,
Just got to go with the flow.
Yeah.
Now, one song I wanted to touch on is Dodged a Bullet.
Yeah.
We touch the bullet bed. We touch the bullet. We touch the bullet bed. We touch the bullet. Live to see another spring. Time will get you on the ring.
The Dodged a Bullet was written last year, and it's one of like 2 or 3 prescient songs that I've sort of written in advance, that I unknowingly was, tapped into my own inner prophet and wrote a song about the future without knowing it. But, I had a song on My Regime that was called 2020 that was a lot about, it was meant to be, I'm praying that in 2020, the political climate will change. And I wrote that in 2017, and somehow all these lyrics made sense with what we were going through. And Dodged a Bullet was written about basically the Trump administration somewhere subconsciously, but it was just written about, when you're in danger and you get away with it, and there are things out there that want to get you, and we somehow get away from them. And there was lyrics in there about little creatures the size of cells, and mad leaders and their flocks of sheep. And, so there was all these things that I think now I kind of go, boy, you were ahead of the curve on that one, young man.
Well, I've been doing a lot of interviews like this with folks like you who've been putting out music right now, but songs maybe are written 2 or 3 years earlier. And it's amazing how prescient a lot of songwriters seem to be. And kind of, I don't know if you guys are in tune with something that the rest of us are just like oblivious to, or what?
Yeah, I don't know. For someone who is often derided as being a traditionalist who looks for the past,
Right.
I did feel good that I was able to write a few lyrics that sort of made sense ahead of their time, for a change. And so I was kind of proud of that one. And especially with 2020, I remember writing my licensor person who helps get things in commercials. And I was like, hey, if somebody needs a song about this year, I've already written it, and this should be on a commercial. And it's like, there's just no one wants to talk about this year. We don't want to use the words ever again. So we can't wait to not be in 2020. So, I was like, we got to be able to sell some toilet paper or something with this commercial,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But no such luck so far.
So the album it was released November 20th, which is just a couple weeks ago. So without being able to get out there and play, how do you kind of interact with people who are listening to it? Do you get any kind of feedback?
Well, the pandemic has shifted sort of the timeline of everything. So the downloads and the streaming is out. The records probably will be in hand here on the 5th or 6th of this month.
Right.
So I think they've moved the vinyl release a couple weeks. So it's weird in the way that it had to fall staggered wise, just with the way the supply chain is. It's all disrupted. So, there's nothing really to do. You can get on video. You could do a streaming concert. I've kicked around a few ideas. I am doing a live band concert here in San Francisco next Friday. And we're playing basically in the parking lot of my favorite venue here. And there's 50 seats and they're all 20 feet apart. And you have to buy food because
right.
it's got to be tied in as food and beverage in the San Francisco rules here. So, and because you can't have horn players or singers due to poison emission, I'm going to be on the second floor of the building in a room and being filmed and sort of poor man's hologram projected on the wall next to the stage. So the band, I think, is going to be in a mask on the stage in front of people, and I'll be up, on the second floor of this next door building, kind of waving like a Vita, out the window. And all kinds of things can go wrong. So I'm hoping that
sounds like fun.
It's something to do, So
exactly.
The joy of making noise with your friends. We did have a rehearsal last week because we've got 10 new songs to learn. So we were all, in my studio, over there, 3 fans and 1 air purifier and the window open and trying to go, you were tested when? Okay. And I was tested. And
right.
So there's all these new things to think about. And I was offered a show in Southern California next a couple weeks from now, but then how many vans do we need? I mean, I can't put 5 people in a van, you know?
Yeah.
How many hotel rooms do we have to get? We can't all sleep in 2 rooms. So at some point, probably the only way to do it is things like this, or to do a live sitting in front of my computer. But honestly, I get so few goosebumps from
I can imagine
from doing it and from being a watcher. So
yeah.
March 15th, March 20th, watching a friend do a live concert was kind of a novel new thing, and it was something to do. And now it's like, I don't want to watch these anymore, and I certainly don't want to do it. And there is that pull of like, well, you got to do something. But I ultimately it'll probably be, I just pray people stream it and buy it and enjoy it in their own way, and maybe there's something I can do in a video way to push it along. But it's hard for everybody who's putting out records this year. There's just no physical way. There's no physical way to really promote, and the virtual ways, to me, I'm kind of just, I'm not a big fan.
I will say, as a one-man ambassador for New Zealand, if you want to put up with 2 weeks of being in isolation, come here. We got gigs everywhere.
Oh my God, unbelievable.
You just got to get into the country, but it's the only restriction we have at the moment is if on public transportation, you have to wear a mask. That's it.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, you've got such a great, from what I can tell, such a great leader, and Jacinda.
Yep.
And you're just a smart people, And,
well, that's not the first word that comes to my mind on Friday night when I'm out at the pub with a bunch of them, but there you go.
Sure. But I think that in America, we've misconstrued patriotism and responsibility for others. And some parts of our government bandy about that this is socialism, and who are you to tell me what to do with my body?
Yeah.
And these are the same people who are telling women what they can do with their body.
Yeah, funny about that, isn't it?
These are the same people who are telling you, the environment has to suffer because you can't tell me what to do with my smokestack.
Yep.
So it's all so convoluted here, and it's really dangerous right now, the way people are treating this. And feeling an affront that you're asking me to do something that I don't believe in to help somebody else who I don't believe what they have to say. So we're really at this odd place right now. There's just no communal effort or organization coming from the top. And there are a lot of people who are subscribed to that notion that I know best and I'm going to do what I want to do. And unfortunately, this situation is going to call for people having a kind of a collective caring and feeling for others in order to get over this, or we're just stuck.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. Well,
it's a big country. I mean, it is so big. It is so massive. And so to think about trying to corral, you know, California, Texas, all these things that are the size of Europe, you know, it's going to be a real difficult thing. And I wouldn't be, you know, I think that's why we're in such a mess too.
Yeah. And it's been, I mean, everything seems to have come to a boiling point this year with all sorts of things going on. It's not just the COVID thing, but race relations and the politics in general and left and right and all that. So it has to be dealt with though. So hopefully it will be dealt with sensibly and without too much bloodshed. That's
You know, like a couple friends of mine were headed to different countries because they said the Civil War is coming and I don't want to be here. So, you know, have we passed that point? I don't, you know, I hope so, at least politically, but there's so much poison in the minds of a lot of people now. You just don't know. We can just only hope. And, you know, I'm grateful I have a house and food and some money to buy guitar strings and whatever online. And I have a little studio I can go hide in and get the world off my shoulders, you know, but we'll see.
We will see. Well, thank you for spending time talking to me. I much appreciate it. Thanks for the record. Fantastic. Hopefully we'll get to see you down here at some point once things lighten up a little bit.
I'll be on the Air New Zealand website as soon as we hang up. Thank you.
There you go. Come on down, man. The water's fine.
It's been an awful long time for me. And with every record, I think I got to get back to Australia and New Zealand. And you know, if nothing else, once things are taken away from you, you realize you got to act on it when you can. So I hope to get there again. I got nothing but good memories of both those places. So I hope I can get there soon.
Cool. All righty. Well, have a good day, the rest of your day. And
thank you. I really appreciate you listening and checking in.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Take care, buddy.